Hello.
Is that the music from Elizabeth?
No.
I was like, that came in. I was like, oh,
Something that I
from my
imagined
daily
felt,
world.
yes, something I imagined felt really wonderful. So I just said,
Oh,
I've been
thank
really enjoying my instrumental music lately. And
you.
so, good morning, everybody. And here we are. Your word is your wand. Welcome to our podcast vlog, the video log. My name is Carrie Muchaw. I am an anxiety expert and coach, and this is my partner.
Andrea Alexander, also anxiety expert and coach.
And we are Embody Coaching LLC. And we are massively experts on language.
Yes.
And we speak into how our words create our life. And so this is our creation of how magical in fact our words are, and how with the poof of a word, it is like a magic wand that creates. And as we come in today on this Wednesday, we have gotten the signal to start all of our vlogs as we do our classes that we do in group movements. And so as we do that, the first thing we always do is we take a breath, because we all come in from all different areas, whether you're driving your car and you're listening, whether you're going to replay this, whether you're watching it live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on YouTube. You're coming from somewhere. And in time and space, we require breathing to come fully into where we are right now. So I'm going to ask each one of you that as you're here, however you are receiving this message, take a nice big breath and inhale really big. And then exhale through your mouth. With every inhalation, we are aware that our inhalation is our act of receiving. So this time, as you inhale, really light up your nostrils and really inhale powerfully as if you're smelling a flower, as your full act of receiving. So everybody now, as you are here and receiving this information, inhale really big. Allow it to come all the way in and feel your chest expand. And exhale through your mouth long and slow. And what we're aware of in our exhalation, it is our ability to let go. Both things are epically powerful, and you may find that you may be stronger in one area. And we're here to empower both the inhale and our exhale. So one more time, here we go. Light up your nostrils, inhale really big. Allow your chest to expand and feel it move through your body, and exhale through your mouth, long and slow. And as we're allowing our breath to come in, you feel your beautiful amount of air. This is our moment of life, and where we are receiving that all life is for us. And as we begin, we also draw in the energy of our room as we create this sacred container. And Andrea leads us off with decrees. Decree a thing and it shall be, and it is the power that lies within us. Andrea, will you guide us through some decrees this morning?
Yes. I am the resurrection of light and love in me.
I am the resurrection of light and love in me.
I am the resurrection of light and love in my family.
I am the resurrection of light and love in my family.
I am the resurrection and light and love in my world.
I am the resurrection of light and love in my world.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Me, love me.
Me, love me.
And those of you who are joining us, I empower you when to speak so slowly that we feel the vibration of our voice in our own bodies. Every single word that we speak carries energy. And the energy that we speak and the words that we have actually create a brain peptide that is connected to our DNA. And every time we speak lovingly into us, we actually create a hormonal release in our bodies of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which are reward, happy, and relaxing chemicals. These are life sustaining hormones, and over time, they actually can reverse the dis-ease, the disease we have experienced and brought into our bodies through the words that we have been speaking into ourselves in the past.
And I love the energy of the moment that you said me love me. It was like this instantaneous grin came over my
I
face.
saw it was
And it was
gorgeous.
I love that because it is us speaking to our inner child, and it's the moment of massive love within us, and it's how easy it is for a 3-year-old to love themselves. How easy it is for a child to love. And it's calling on that energy that lies within us and remembering, in fact, how easy it is to love. And I love that. I've been playing so much in you know Florence Scovel Shinn is one of my favorite writers. She is an artist too. And her teacher, she is the teacher of one of Louise Hay's teachers. And so I've been now reading the one of the Louise Hay books, You Can Heal Your Life, which I've looked at it before. We've discussed this. I've looked at it before, long before I began consciousness, and I decided to reread it because I was aware that now that I'm conscious, I was going to read everything completely differently than I had seen it before, and it was going to be so much more accessible to me. And that is, in fact, my truth. And it's been wonderful. So today, what I decided for our vlog today was to speak into the power of gratitude. We are, in fact, in November, which is the month in which everyone speaks into thanks and Thanksgiving. And many of us have practices of Thanksgiving and being able to remember gratitude. And as I was reading today, this morning, I was reading one of the things we spoke about last time was parenting and partnering in parenting. And Louise Hay has this really great moment where several moments in the book where she speaks again and again. She repeats it, I imagine, because repetition is so powerful.
Yes.
About how we signed up, how we picked our parents. That she has a belief that we picked our parents. And we're speaking of the divine energy in us picking our parents. And
confirmation.
thank you, Cooper. My dog is very excited about this. And so what I'm aware of was when she said it, what she said was when you decide you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school. If you decide you want to be a beautician, you go to beautician school. And so when you feel passionate about something, you sign up for the school of that And she said, and what actually happened is you may be yet to know that you were extremely passionate and you desired to have your parents, because the patterns we find in our parents, we can transform. Because I've had so many experiences when we coach people, and they'll say, I'll just share it with my really excited.
What we'll have a recording studio at some stage, Carrie.
It's okay. He's part of my life,
Family.
and I love that. So for example, when I was coaching my own son, and I said to him, "Okay, so do you have a memory of this showing up for you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember this one time Dad said to me," and he spoke into something that my husband had said to him, and I said, "Okay, and so did your daddy teach you that?" And he said, "I don't like it when you say that." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, you just keep saying that, like, my father taught me something or you taught me something," because he's speaking even to me. I'm coaching him about the things that he heard me say. And he says, "But you keep saying you taught me," and I and I don't like that. I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Isn't it true that when you're a little kid, we watch things and we learn from what we see?" And are you saying that your father and I, that something we did was wrong? Are you believing to blame us? And no.
Or even judge.
Yeah, or even judge. And that's what I was aware of, is he loves us so deeply that it was to say that he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Are you aware that when you're a child, you learn from what you see?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Is that all that happened?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, awesome. Because you heard something from your father, you believed it to be true, and you moved with it. And now we know that this is why we're here, is to actually transform what we heard and we experienced into the light it was meant to be." And so in this experience, my what had happened, I choose to share the whole thing because it was really profound. My husband, my son had heard my husband say, when because my mother had ascended early, and I was in another room and I was crying and I was upset, and my husband, my beloved, had met my son at the door and from when he got home from school, and he said, "Mom is upset. She's in her room, she's crying." And he said, "I'm doing the very best that I can to make her better, and I just can't seem to do it." And he said, "I'm trying." And he said something that Mason interpreted is this was his job as a husband, was to
Mhm.
make me better. And so he stepped into his relationship and he was doing the same thing. And when I spoke to my beloved, I said, "Ben, this is Mason's memory." And Ben said, "I have a completely different memory." And I said, "And that's okay." Because, and he said, and then Ben finished my sentence. He said, "Because what he heard is all that matters." And I said, "Yes." And that's what we're remembering. There is no blame, there's no judgment. It's just what he remembered. And
Mhm.
so what he remembered had this big aha moment that you're responsible for you and you're responsible for your happiness. And that's the energy where other people find happiness. But the whole thing was, he signed up for the two of us to be his parents so that he could transform whatever that he heard. And we each signed up for our parents. And if we will believe that we have parents for a reason, to transform anything that they were yet to be able to do, we will be grateful for our parents in a whole new way, instead of trying to protect them, or because the feeling was, "No, don't talk about my parents." Even though he was talking to his parent, it was very funny. It was like, "Don't talk about my parents. Like, they're good people. They love me." And yes, but when we hear our patterns, and that our parents, we chose our parents so that we could transform anything they were yet to be able to do. We'll find a different level of gratitude, is what I'm getting. A different level of thank you, and now I can.
Yes. And I love you said so the belief that it was his job. And we when I with my former spouse, I when we got married, I believed fully committed. It's if we adopt it's like was like adopting a pet. If you were fully committed to something to see it all the way through. And my belief was to support him until he could do what I wanted him to do, so he could be the way I wanted him to be. And when I had the realization that I had already done my best in so many different ways, that it was his job to do the other stuff. I had done all that was required of me. And you also you put on the table, it's what he heard. And we are very aware that our perception is our belief. You can have five people at an intersection where there is a car collision of some sort, and every single one of them is going to see from a different perspective, and they're each going to have a different belief. It's what things that we've seen, and it's things that we've heard. Anybody, I'm sure, at some stage has played the pass it on game, where somebody comes up with a phrase and you pass it to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. By the time it gets back around, it's completely shifted based on what they heard. And our perception is our belief, whether it's something we've seen or we've heard, and it is our reality. It's what we know. And I'm aware of recently having the experience of with a long-term friend who's been in my life for over 40 years now, where we had a miscommunication. What I heard her say and what she said were completely different. And thank God we were able to have the conversation, and I could say what I heard and she could say what she said, and we agreed that it was just a misunderstanding. And so that allowed us to move forward. And what we're doing with all of this is reality is a framework, a lens that we have of what we have perceived and what we have believed. We've had our parents teach us things, and they have created what our known reality is. From the age of 0 to 7, any and everything we hear, see, touch, feel, taste, or experience is truth in our subconscious mind. And speaking directly into the gratitude, the way we begin to walk ourselves into gratitude in the experiences that we've had, because we can stay in the what happened, what they said, what they did. My parents are their greatest weakness, is yet to be is to be your greatest strength. And we're reframing, looking at the experience in a completely new and different way. And for me, my experience was that my mother was harsh, that she was tough on me, that how she saw me as a child was less than, that she saw me as fat. I took on fat. I believed in fat, until I began to understand and connect my dots, which was as a child who experienced trauma, I found my way to keep my mother's attention and focus on me, so I was safe, So my mother was around to see everything I put in my mouth and on my body, so that I stayed in the belief of, this is hard. My mother doesn't like me. My mother doesn't see me. My mother doesn't believe me. My mother sees me as less than. And when I had the awareness of why I had created my experience with my mother, like made up all these things that she believed, that she didn't really love me because I wasn't good enough, and this, I reframed that so that I could feel safe as a child. And now that I am aware I've had that experience, and what I did with that experience, I began to walk myself greatly into something new and different. I was like, oh my gosh, now I can forgive me for judging how I felt my mother's love. I've had conversations with my mother about my experience with her, and I've been able to speak directly into um, the gratitude of what she did do and see her love as courageous. And so I am what my mother had her own body things as well. And so now that I have seen it, become aware of it, forgiven the experience, forgiven my mother, I get to reframe it. And this was how I'm walking myself back into gratefully loving me.
And so, and what I heard was in the very beginning, the very first step was to be grateful for exactly what your mother did. Because
Yes.
we all like, oh, they did these great things, and then they did these things that were kind of a little like, oh, like
Harsh.
why is it? Yeah, it's
Harsh.
harsh. It's harsh. And we always say, one of the things we always say in coaching is, and will you love harsh? Because when we love what we've said no to, like, I don't like that. I don't like the way my parents came across. I don't like the way they did this. And yet it was powerful.
Yes.
And, but what was powerful about it? It's not powerful that they were harsh. So you're going to repeat harsh because it was powerful.
No.
No, which, because I've heard people, when we honor our parents, sometimes we'll travel in that form. And what we're saying is something really completely different. Is we're grateful that they showed us harsh. You're grateful she showed you harsh
So
so
I
that
can learn tender.
you could transform being and stepping into being gentle with you, because the
Yes.
opposite of harsh is
Is
gentle.
tender,
It
gentle.
is, yes, it's very tender, but it required being grateful for the messenger. And what I love, the messenger. Who is the highest messenger that we have? We speak all the time. We're about to be on Christmas where we speak about Jesus and the messenger, and the angelic forces travel as messengers. And if we will see our parents as simply messengers,
Mm.
we can find massive gratitude. Because even with my son, he's 19, with Mason, I said to him, because he had heard that his father's job was to make me happy. And I said, what were you afraid of? And he was afraid that he was going to lose me,
Mm.
that something was going to happen to me, that I was going to give up, walk away, that he was going to lose me. And I said, and did that happen? He said, no. And I said, and who, because this was a massive place of where I had left myself. In my mother's death, they witnessed where I had left myself behind, and I felt I couldn't handle it. And it was another act of my leaving, is what I did with my mother's ascension. As opposed to finding the victory, I left. And so, and I said, and did she come back? Did I return? And did I stay and move through 32 years of seizures for massive stay? And he was like, yes. And I said, and is that living in joy? He said, yes.
Yes.
And so, and did I do it? And he said, yes. And I said, did your father do it for me? He's like, no. And I'm like, and there you go. But it was going to be for him to be able to be grateful for us as the messenger.
Of what we can do.
Yes. And
Because
if
we
he saw the
believe
truth, and it's the truth of the message. And like you were said, we hear something and we believe it, and it becomes our truth. And one of the questions, I mean, one of the questions that Louise Hay asked in her book, and we always ask, is this true? We ask our clients all the time,
all the
is this
time.
true? And they have to
Yes
sit
or
there for
no?
a second. And sometimes they're like, well, yes, that's what happened. And I'm like, yes,
Mm.
but is it the truth of what was really happening you were witnessing? Or was that just what you believed about it? Is it the story you told yourself? And why we told ourselves, does it matter? No. And but yet it is our truth. And when we discover, is it really true? Because that's what showed up for Mason. Was it really true that your father's job was to make me happy and he was failing? No. And what the truth was, that it was just your mother, me, believing I couldn't handle something and believing I had to go down into the depths, and
Yes.
remembering that I did show up, that I returned to loving life on my own, and that I gratefully stayed, and that nothing really leaves. It was such a powerful thing in the whole entirety of it. And it's my great example of our parents as messengers, because I mean, I'm gonna tell you, being on the other side of the screen like this, and he's on one screen, he's telling you how he sees you. There's this massive motherly instinct that wants to go, that's not what really happened. And how does that help? Because we've been talking about parents and what parents say to us. And so I was the massive moment of stay to hear exactly what he believed so that we could find out if it was really true. It wasn't. And so that's where, if we will see our parents as messengers and be grateful, we'll get all of it. So gratitude has so many open doors. I love
Mhm.
it because I hear you speak about forgiveness and gratitude and how you walked through gratitude. And I heard you say, so that you could recreate. And what I'm aware of is gratitude, being thankful, feels so good in our bodies that all of that fight or flight, the tension, the fight, the anger, the frustration, the sadness, however we have had it, is able to dissipate in the moment that we're grateful. And we can say, thank you for this experience. And now I see what it truly is. And you're speaking about recreating, which is where we have the energy of authoring. We speak so much of the energy of authoring, and I author my own life. And that's the power of recreating and rewriting our stories and creating the life we truly, truly desire. And what I heard this morning is um, the the word stuck. So if you remember, so as I came into this entire movement, my very beginning years ago, it was because I believed I was stuck. And I heard this morning, I was reading, and she speaks into, Louise Hay speaks into stuck. And that are we truly, and that stuck is a belief, because are we truly stuck, or can we instantaneously create a new choice to change our words, and it
Yes.
changes everything?
Yes. Just this simple example in this moment. If anybody in the audience, whoever's listening, say the money.
The money.
Say my money.
My money.
I changed. There. Do you feel the difference in the energy? What did
Yeah.
we change? We changed the to my. It's one word shift that completely shifts the energy in our bodies. And when you were speaking about your mom and Mason and Ben and seeing you, what I got was, when we are in a movement or something has happened, what I'm aware of is we are in fear that this is the new permanent state of life. Woo! And it's where we are so, they died, they didn't die, they almost died, and all of these things that happen. We believe that this is the permanent state, that life is going to stay this way. And I remember hearing one time somebody saying, God loves me so much, he won't keep me here. And I'm aware that we have been speaking for so long and for things to be different in different ways, and it creates change in our life. And your mother had her own words that put her where she was and created that experience, and she owned it. She created it for herself. And so we're back here reeling. And Carrie, what was the greatest lesson that your mother laid on the table for you, or laid on the altar for you to pick up and walk with? Your mother's greatest weakness into your greatest strength.
My mother's greatest weakness was that she believed she had to leave. And, and it's for the massive remembering that what of staying, and I received my mother's greatest strength on earth was her tender love. And what I did was I took the greatest strength I saw on earth to the greatest weakness, believing she had to leave, to that my tender love stays. And being able to put both of them into a massive return on strength is how much stay returns for me, and has been returning and keeps returning. And there's so much, because that was the movement from seizures to being able to stay in however life appears that day. And what you said is what I heard you say, is that we believe that this state that we're experiencing is suddenly permanent, and like this is what life is going to look like now. And I am aware of that fear and not enjoying it and being like, oh, I don't know. And I'm aware that that's what Mason was speaking into too, was this is what life is going to look like now. This is the new normal. This is the new normal. And again, what I heard this morning was, is it true, or is it all it takes is we shift, like you said, one word? One word. Because the word you used was my. And when I said my instead of the, it was owning it in me. It was feeling money in me, and which is value and love. And being able to feel that in me. And that is extremely powerful. And what we're remembering is our biggest movement, I believe, on the planet is loving ourselves.
Yes.
Biggest
And
movement.
Just a little bit about stay and leave. And so staying is where we've left, we have something happen to us as a child, or some experience that causes great fear. And so we actually physically have this, our feelings will leave our body, and we will find ways to be in life that are twidgety and fidgety. We may go numb, we may eat, we may stay really busy, all in an effort to not be present. That's us leaving our bodies. And so we talk about staying, which is staying present, staying in our bodies, staying with how we feel in the moment, and owning what that is. And it's the way we actually get to be with all of life. And really, it's the place where from which we get to enjoy everything. It's the place where we have choice on what we feel, what we do, how we move forward, what we say, what we author, what we love, and what we forgive, and what we are grateful for.
And
And I go ahead.
you had said, so when you said recreate and I spoke into authorship, I just remember how powerful it was for me the first time I realized.
Authorship, what's that?
Well, I no, the moment I remember my coach said to me, "Will you say I author my own life?" And I mean, I was like, "Wow." It was. I always enjoyed writing, and I always enjoyed. So it's kind of funny because I was. Wow, I just felt this massive power come over me, and I was like, "I author my own life." I didn't ask her what that meant. It was like it didn't matter to me because my conscious mind couldn't wrap my mind around that, but I just heard the power in it. And and so I was like, "Yes, I author my own life." And it was
Author.
so powerful. Yes. And
What does that mean?
yes. And
I am my own
in my
authority.
in my massive movement that we heard from the belief of leaving to staying, what I'm aware of is that what I the school I signed up for
Mm.
is I signed up to have a massive understanding of what leaving looked like. Because if you're yet to know what it looks like, then how will you know stay? You have to be fully aware of the opposite energy in order to be able to live on the other side, which is why we say if you were an expert in leaving, you're an expert on staying.
Which is
If
why
you
we
were
are
an
experts
expert
in
on anger, you're
experience.
an expert on forgiveness. If you were an expert on grief, you're an expert on what is the opposite
Joy.
of what?
Joy.
Joy. Ah, look at that. And if you are an expert on guilt, you're an expert on innocence. And so we're just remembering that this is what I required to understand. Did I enjoy my mother ascending and I'm going to say it, leaving the planet? No, and yet what I know now is it's what was required for me to understand massive stay because when we talk about authorship in authoring something, I had a massive awareness and movement one time when I heard myself say, "She always returns."
Mm.
You remember on the BE table when I said I said to my grandmother, I it was a memory of my mother's ascension and her being in the hospital bed. And I remember saying, "Oh, don't worry, she always returns." Like it was a memory that my mother actually always returns, and it's returning in me. It's my return. It's where my mother lives inside of me, through me, and I walk with that. I walk with I walk with that message, with the message of the massive return.
Yes, and I had the awareness of speaking today, and I was putting together my piece, and my story, if you've seen it anywhere, is it's I'm home alone with the refrigerator. And the Carrie and I are very aware the first three words that are out of our mouth, that come from our mouths, that we utter, is the truth. I am home. I
Hmm.
am home. And the word I am home alone, alone translates into all in one. I've always been in me. I was the one that I believed that had left.
That's so amazing.
I was like, oh, God, here we are 6 years later, and I get the code.
Yes, and that's okay. It's when we're ready, we'll get the full message because you got the steps beforehand that
Yes,
gave you, and you had massive clarity, massive movement, massive ease
massive
along the
letting go.
way in the steps until you
Yes,
got all the way to a new understanding of the other side.
yes,
Because, like, my first stay was that my 2 hour naps dissipated. That's the first stay. Then being able to stay and experience my family, that's another level of stay. And so it had all those levels before it was to the other side, and everything was a miracle, everything was a victory. And so there's so many steps along the way where we still have that. And how did we get there? So we got there by changing one word.
it started with one
It
word.
started with one word.
Whew, that feels so amazing in my mind. Like,
And that's what I was so aware of this morning is in the book, she says, Louise Hayes says, are you truly stuck if you're in the new moment of now?
no,
If you're in the new moment of now. If you're in the new moment now. Because every moment is a
it's
new
new.
moment to create a new choice. And all it requires is changing one word. The me love me is an very powerful because as I spoke, on our planet, the biggest movement we have is loving ourselves. And when we love ourselves, that's where we see love all around us and we see cooperation. We see so many other beliefs dissipate. We're able to stay and be with each other. We have agreements. They're the victories of I can, the massive expansion of wealth because we're raising value in love. But in the beginning, we begin with love because that's where everything grows. So what we're speaking into today is the power of gratitude. And gratitude is in fact love. It's loving yourself enough to be grateful for what you see in front of you, for grateful for getting up in the morning. And so I've played with the first thing that happens to me in the morning, and which we've played with this before, but I really had an awareness, again, just a new level of how I wake up and what I say. And I've played with it in the past where I find it and I flip it and I find it and I flip it. And what I became aware of is if love transforms everything, do I require all of that extra information? It's valuable to me in the moment in which it is, but in a new beginning, when we start at the very beginning, the very first movement we have is love. And so I was aware of waking up and I immediately itch, which is funny because in my family, my very first movement, one of the first movements I had was anger and irritation. And I was aware of immediately waking up and scratching for me is immediately waking up irritated about something, picking at something, which is picking at myself and frustrated with myself for whatever story I'll make up next. And there's a whole slew of them. So instead, I just said to myself, I choose love. And my hand went from itch to I choose love to a very gentle stroke on my body, which is a different way for me to be with myself because of how I have itched and woken up that way. And that's been how I can see it. That's how it becomes very clear to me that there's another level. And so just waking up and just saying, I choose love. I choose love. We have a moment of choice. And so, what we're empowering you to do today is to find gratitude and what you're grateful for. And begin with yourself.
And I'm aware there are things that we desire to be grateful for, and we've yet to fully do that. And so you can give yourself permission to be grateful for things that you've yet to fully be grateful for. And one of my favorite lines on our gratitude journal is, "Today I choose to forgive. I give myself permission to forgive." Thank you for putting Messenger on deck. So fun. And I have an aha for a new class called My Mother is My Messenger.
Oh, that's amazing.
Woo! On deck, everything that our mothers and daddies have brought before us, and in a completely new and different way. That's a new class that will be coming up soon.
I love that. Yes, I do love the messenger came through. I'm getting a lot of those beautiful
Downloads.
little aha, the little downloads when I will allow, when I will allow. So begin your day with gratitude and begin with yourself. That's what our empowerment is today, because the return of power is in love. And I empower you to find either a me love me or I choose love as a beginning stage, because it begins in love, and being grateful will awaken all of that within us.
I remember the very first time my coach told me to say, "Me, love me." I felt nothing. It took some time for that to come in for me. So if you say something and it's yet to fully resonate, keep it on deck. It is completely for you.
Keep it
And
on the altar. Keep
keep
it
it
on
on
the
the
altar.
altar. It's the degree to which you have suppressed love.
Yes. So me love me. It's massively powerful in giving yourself gratitude for you.
For you,
Awesome.
for your being.
And thank
I
you so much
Thank
for
you. My favorite topic, gratitude, always.
yes, yes, yes. And so we are here, and I choosing to remind everyone that you can find us on Clubhouse. It is actually under Conscious Carry, I believe. And on Clubhouse, you can find us, and we do a Monday and we do a Friday. If Clubhouse is a new app for you, woo, get it.
Super fun.
It's super amazing, because what we are able to do on Clubhouse is we do Monday and Friday at 8 o'clock. And again, your word is your wand. If you look under your word is your wand, you will find us, because that is where we are. And the beautiful part about Clubhouse is that if you desire coaching, if you're like, what about this word? Or I don't understand what word to use, or let me tell you what's going on with me. Here's what you can do is you can get into the room, and if you choose to just listen, you can listen. We also have the words going across the screen. If you're in a space where you can just read and you're requiring silence, that's available to you. Or you can unmic yourself and you can ask a question, and we do live coaching in the moment. And so it's an amazing opportunity to jump in and be coached and have an experience for free. So it's something that we're gifting. And so on Monday and Friday at 8 o'clock, and then we'll be here at 8:30 as well, where you can find us on the vlog. You can find us on Spotify. All our replays are available there for you as well, to listen when you walk or any time. So your word is your wand. And then I also choose to share that coming in January, we will have our money class. It is our most popular class, and so far, and it is massively powerful of where we find our money patterns in our families, and we've shifted it. We've had people get raises in jobs when they're in the class. We've had people all of a sudden remember that big gift. She had that massive government loan that came down that was gifted to her and her business, one of our clients, during the call series. So during the call, people are start experiencing these influx of cash flows, because we start experiencing where we're finding our patterns on money and what we were taught. We play with some of the phrases: money doesn't grow on trees, things our parents
taught us.
taught us.
They put on the altar for us. They are
They
our
are the messengers.
the messenger of our wealth, our abundance, and our supply in all of life. And we believed them.
And that's so amazing. So that is in January. If you go to embodycoaches.com, you can see what we offer and you can send us a message. We will be updating that site with the new information on our money class in the next few weeks so that you can find that and begin to register now. And also, we have an evergreen section on there. That I love the evergreen section because you can go on and you can actually purchase a class and listen on your own. It's self-paced from pre-recorded classes where you can have the experience and walk yourself through
with support. And then you can jump into Clubhouse with questions and we'll support you there even further.
Oh, yes, there's so many levels of how you can play with us.
And
We
then
have access. We have gifted you with many places to play with us and at your leisure, how you feel, being gentle, walking in whatever supports you the most.
And then we will be doing another women's retreat at the January 30th through February 3rd. It's a 5-day deep dive into your experiences in life.
Yes, and we keep that retreat extremely small, so we have a small amount of spaces, and so I empower you to go ahead and put a deposit and reserve your space because it's massively powerful.
Yes.
Awesome. Have a great Wednesday.
Thank
and
you.
We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye-bye.